Welcome back, everyone. We're here to break down that last match where Fnatic beat the Super Hot crew. And, well, guys, we just talked to Soaz, and he was very confident. He said, I knew I could punish the Mundo going in, and just all went well for them.
Right, so generally, Mundo laning phase is not the best, and you can often push him down to his tower. Your jungler comes up, you just go in for the kill. They did it with Cyanide, got the first kill, killed him again the second time. They knew how to punish the Mundo. Still, Subaru, they picked it because Mundo is very good against double AP. If you do get tanky enough in the late game, you become very hard to kill. So there was some idea behind it from Subaru, but Fnatic clearly knew how to shut it down.
And more importantly, you know, they said they punished the Mundo. They knew Mundo was coming. You know, they've now got Aranea in their camp. They've got a coach that actually does research for them. And he called 3 out of the 5 picks.
Yeah.
We were sat with him down here. He was in the stage, and he was like, they're going to pick this. Was expecting Braum. They bought without Morgana. But they already knew. They knew Mundo was coming, so they'd already had a plan to work against it.
As long as you have like the basic ideas. Reckless as well, picked Lucian very early on, so you could build Blazer and King against Dr. Mundo again. If you stack HP, Blade would just shred right through him. So overall, very good pick and ban phase from Fnatic, and full credit to Aranea. It really shows his work behind the scene is paying off for Fnatic.
Absolutely, and so I asked Soaz, how far do you think you're away from the best Fnatic we have seen? And he said, you know what? Not that far, as long as we can keep closing out games that we do. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, Europe, everyone, it's always ties. We've had it back in the summer 2013. You know, they came through, and sure as hell, who rose to the top once again? It's the 3 split champions, Fnatic. They could be the 4th. Who knows? They're peaking at exactly the right point, as they always do.
So the question for me is not how well they can do in Europe, because we know they can perform here. It's how well they can do at Worlds. If they do go to Worlds, play against teams from NA, from Korea, from China, all over the world here, how do they perform against these teams? It's all that matters. Will they prepare more than they did for All-Star, or do they just show up again with a bit of a, what can we say, like bad performance at least from All-Star from Fnatic?
Yeah, I mean, the one big thing for Fnatic that they've always had going for them is that they can play multiple different styles. They're not a one-dimensional team. If they want to play at pick comp, they'll play at pick comp. If they just want to straight up lane phase you, they will do. And if they want to try something different, fancy, maybe adjust, they generally can do it. And that's actually what does them so well when they have these big international tournaments. It's how they got 3rd place last year.
Yeah, of course. They aren't there yet. We're going to see how they do versus SK Gaming tomorrow as well, of course. For now, though, we're going to check in with you guys at home because earlier today we asked you to put your fandom on display and let us know which European LCS pro would you want to do a queue with and why. The first answer is from @LaniathMan. Selfie. His super aggressive style would be hilarious and would never get boring. Well, Mobility Boots on Lulu, not boring at all.
No. Not the best game for Selfie here, but I'm sure in solo queue he's a lot of fun to be around. He's always been very high up. I mean, I believe he's been Challenger for a long, long time. He used to play Fizz pretty much every single game in Challenger. So yeah, definitely should be a fun guy. Needs to give me more fantasy points, however, and not die 5 times.
The second one is from @Fiontefu. A lot of pros say Kerp is hilarious to hang around with, and who wouldn't want to be carried by the trackball god?
Well, you discussed this one earlier, and you said actually he trolls you a lot when you play with him.
He just plays everything. He plays whatever he wants. A bit like Soaz, you can never expect what exactly they're going to play and what they're going to build. And then he likes to yell a lot while he plays solo.
Always fun. The next one is from @Derek05849228. Maybe that's his phone number, I don't know. It must be Edward. All you need is to just insta-lock Thresh for him, and he will land hooks left and right.
I've played with Eddie. He is fantastic
You did.
to solo queue with as well. I didn't solo queue with him. I've done normals with him. I've done normals with a lot of team players, but he's great to play with.
I agree.
I thought you were going to go...
I didn't actually get to do a queue with him because we're both supports. So
well, he's Big Boss Eddie to use.
He's Big Boss Eddie. He's made it very clear I can only call him Big Boss Eddie, and that's how it is.
All right, then the last tweet is from @BobTheBaker87. I would love to duo with the Fischio, former godlike support and now a league know-it-all, and the Danish accent is a plus.
I agree.
I'm not sure the Riot Rumble team agrees because he couldn't carry them.
Well, I was playing mid lane, so I tried. I'm great to play with in solo queue. I always win.
I've heard great stuff from your other half, and you can't carry her through gold.
Well, gold is pretty hard to get past, to be honest.
Yeah, true. Absolutely. We're not going to go any further in that. Thanks for sending those in, and we look forward to hearing more. You can continue to let us know about your fandom by following us @LL Esports and using the hashtag LCS. Joe and Quickshot are about to take us into the next match, but first, let's take a look inside the professional and personal life of a pro player as we spend some time with Millennium's Kevin.
So we are here in Krefeld. My girlfriend is living here. and I'm living with her here. It's my private zone where I can just relax a bit, where I can chill out, where I play as well. I don't have to be 24/7 with the guys. I don't think it's good as well.
It's really important for our relationship that he comes home, and I think I'm so blessed that it's possible. Sometimes it's hard because it's not only his job, it's his hobby too. So when he's off scrims and he has free time, he wants to play as well because that's what he does, that's what he loves. I support him as much as I can. I know when he plays more, he gets better, and that's better for his future.
The first time I played with Kevin was actually back in Season 1. There was like an only jump team, and we were just playing for fun.
Me and Kevin, we were like the star players of the team. Like he played really well back then. I mean, we made it to DreamHack, which is like crazy already.
At that point, my parents weren't like really okay with what I was doing because I was playing really 12 hours a day. I was like, don't worry about my school, I will be fine with that, but just let me play because maybe I can do something out of it. When everything happened and we realized actually that we are going to DreamHack for the finals, I actually thought, but maybe I can go pro, maybe even. I had the Season 2 qualification at Gamescom for the World Finals with SK. It was a great experience for us in LA for the World Championship as well. Going into the LCS, definitely where I just realized, hey, this is now a job, and this is actually the living right now you have. My week is basically after the LCS I go back to here. Saturday is free day, I stay as well here, and Monday I go to the house and start practicing with the guys.
He's like one of the lucky players that can live the normal and gamer's life at the same moment. There is a lot of young people coming to the scene trying to push out the old veterans, and I always respect the people that are actually still playing. For me, the 3 days I'm there are the important ones where I really focus, where I'm really on point. So I'm a person, I like to separate my home and my work. For me, my work is the training, to play Thursday and Friday, and my home is here. I think I'm a pretty lucky guy because other people cannot do that. So I'm just happy I can do that. I need it for me.
Always great to hear from Kevin. For me, one of the more underrated players who I think if we saw there playing at DreamHack Season 1 definitely already achieved legendary status, albeit maybe a little bit on the quiet there in the top lane. Guys, our last LCS game of the day features Millenium taking on Alliance. Both teams ended up going 2-2 last week, but their stories, well, they're vastly different. Let's start with Millenium. They experimented with some different team compositions last week, but they found little success with them. And then the moment that they went back to those all-in champions like Fizz and Leona that they play so well, they picked up some wins.
Yeah, Millenium are definitely a team that when they play to their strengths, which is an aggressive, in-your-face style, that forces their opponents to react to their aggression, they do very well. But when they don't do that, it just feels like Millenium don't really have the patience, or I dare say the teamwork, to pull off sort of siege comps or split push comps. We've seen them trying out Ziggs in the mid lane last week and it didn't work out. For me, in order for Millenium to succeed here against Alliance, they will need to focus down either Shook or Froggen. So the pressure will be on KottenX and Kerp to get involved in the jungle invades or apply pressure on those key roles of mid or jungle. Against Alliance, KottenX and Kerp have had not the best showings. KottenX is still looking for his first kill in 2 games, and Kerp, not the greatest stats. I think they both need to step up if they want to challenge Europe's #1 team.
And on that token, Alliance's winning streak came crashing to the ground last week. After winning 8 games back-to-back, they were absolutely demolished by the Copenhagen Wolves on the last day of Super Week, and then squeezed out of the game by Fnatic later on in the day. And for the team that looked unstoppable, it was a bit of a shocking turn of events last Super Week.
It was an incredibly shocking turn of events. And I think in the loss to the Wolves, Alliance just completely failed to react to the heavy invade and the vision game that the Wolves pulled off. The most surprising thing for me was just the slow and the inability to adapt in-game. Alliance just froze under the pressure in my mind, and I think in their flabbergasted state, they just got destroyed. Shook was on the receiving end of multiple invades. Nyph never left his lane to roam around the map or to alleviate pressure. And look at their stats, 061, 051. That's not what you associate with a 14 and 14. Anyways, it's a scary sign for Alliance because they're very realistically looking like a team that will represent Europe at Worlds. And if they continue to dominate Europe the way they have been doing, they need to learn from their losses last Thursday. They need to adapt faster if they want to challenge any of the international teams. And for me, this will be an interesting week to see how Alliance bounce back from losing back-to-back games. Can they pick themselves up and return to the same strength as pre-Super Week? Because they lost a lot of games back-to-back in spring and never really hit a high peak in power. So this will be a test in my mind.
Well, we're going to find out here very soon. First of all, though, we're going to check out the starting lineups, starting on the blue side with Millenium. There, of course, Kevin in the top lane, KottenX in the jungle, Kerp in the mid lane, Creaton the AD carry, and Jree the support.
And of course, on the red side, it is Alliance with Wickd up top, Shook in the jungle, Froggen playing the mid lane, Tabzz as the AD carry, and Nyph as the support.
So let's total up the votes and see which team you pick to win. According to LOLesports.com, who would have thought it? Alliance has the most votes with 80%. It's not quite the 90% curse that is, as Jack said on Twitter last week, very real.
It is legit. If a team gets 90% or more vote, they tend to lose that game. It's something that's happening in the summer split. Again, 3.11, jungle picks. There's pressure on KottenX. He can't panic pick Kha'Zix again. It didn't work last week against Fnatic. It's most likely not going to work against Alliance. And I wonder if jungle bans might not be a way forward for Alliance. Try to force KottenX under something, either to first pick, and then they can get a power pick. And the reason I highlight that is Shook has only played Lee Sin, Ilyas, and Evelynn in all 18 of Alliance's games. So he's definitely got his hands on the right pick and ban strategy to get a good jungler.
So if you pick all three of those, Shook might just be out of the game. Not something that's going to happen. Lulu, though, will be the first ban for Millenium, and that's aimed straight at Wickd, who played it in 3 out of 4 games during Super Week last week. Evelynn also taken away, so definitely a focus here towards KottenX.
Yeah, and I actually think Evelynn is probably KottenX's strongest jungle champion. While KottenX has played a lot of Lee Sin, I tend to prefer his flanking and his laning phase presence with that Evelynn. So smart play from Alliance. It does leave both Lee Sin and Ilyas available. And let's see who gets which one.
And Millenium have not banned out Kassadin, something that we've come to really expect from them. Kassadin bans, whether it's blue side or red side, they left it open this time, and Alliance banned it away. Millenium instead decided to ban out Orianna and Morgana, and there was Lee Sin left open. Big smile on KottenX's face as Millenium locked that in as their first choice.
That is the 9th time that KottenX will be playing Lee Sin this split, and it denies it from Shook, who it would have been his 10th time. Because the jungle champion is taken off the table and you're not expecting Ilyas to be played in a top lane or a support role, Alliance then get their preferred AD carry and their preferred top lane champion. Again, it could maybe be support, but we are expecting a top because that is where basically every Gragas is going in all regions in the world.
And comfort pick certainly for Tabzz in there, who's been a prolific AD carry so far. And this is why I was interested to see what Kerp is going to go with quite a few mid lane bans in the ban outs of this matchup, and locks in Fizz without too much hesitation. And again, I have to go back to it, again feeling like a bit of a broken record, but that's just how it goes here with Kerp's very, very good Fizz play and sometimes non-existent presence at all.
The thing is, that's also the champion though, right? Big change. Ezreal locked in here for Creaton, going back to a golden oldie, I would dare say. Super early. Probably not going to happen, but Essence Reaver, maybe. Anyways, we'll see in game. You know, Fizz is a champion. If you get ahead, you can stay ahead, you can keep killing people. But if you don't have the ability to blow somebody up, then all of a sudden the champion itself becomes somewhat useless. And we've seen a Fizz versus Syndra matchup earlier today in Roccat versus SK's game. So Froggen, I don't know if he wants to run a Ziggs into a Fizz. That seems like a scary matchup. While you can punish with range, you do run the risk of getting blown up. And Syndra has got, you know, fairly equal burst in that regard. So I'm interested to see what Froggen decides to run as his mid lane champion to counter this Fizz.
Oh, Lissandra there. I don't think that was really the one they were looking for. Switching quickly off to Ilyas, and probably a pretty predictable one, in all fairness, in the jungle there for Shook. As you mentioned, he's played the kind of trinity of junglers pretty much exclusively throughout this split so far. Now for Millenium, looking for a support for Jree and a top laner for Kevin. Now Blitzcrank, always hovered over by Jree, most of the time not locked in, but we have seen it from him.
Yeah, we have seen it from him, and into a Braum, it could even be a possibility. Braum is another one of those champions, being melee and having a fairly understandable attack path. It is locked in. So Jree is pulling out the first Blitzcrank of the summer split. And the reason I like that lock-in is if he focuses down Braum and he uses the mobility of Ezreal in the same process, they can punish the melee range and pre-6 potentially sets of kills. The thing is, Millenium have once again got an all-or-nothing team composition. If Jree doesn't hit his hooks, they can't kill people. If Kerp isn't blowing people up with that Chum the Waters, his fizz becomes useless. But there are fairly squishy champions on the side of Alliance. If they can surprise Wickd before he gets tanky, before he gets his items, it can work in their favor.
So what will Froggen go with here, with Orianna off the table, Lulu off the table, Twisted Fate, Kassadin banned out by themselves? What is he going to lock in this mid lane? Ziggs, of course, has snuck through the picks and the bans this phase. Safe for that mid lane here when it comes to a lot, well, pretty much the entire span of the game. Is going to have strong bullying presence in the early stages, going to be able to clear out those waves later on with his ultimate and put a bit more pressure without actually being on site for all those kills.
Yeah, what's so important for this Ziggs pickup is Alliance have got, once again, incredible wave clear for both offensive and defensive duty with Ziggs and Gragas. Minions should never be hitting towers for particularly long. On the other side of the coin, Millenium have got next to no wave clear. They're going to be relying on true shot barrages, really, and, you know, Blades of Torment from Aatrox is the only real wave clear. So if Millenium are ever pushed against a tower, they need the saving graces of Blitzcrank or Fizz as a threat. Because if they can catch and blow people up, they can defend towers. But they can't do it through wave clear.
Going to be interesting to see whether Jree's on form. Hooks or nothing, pretty much the story on that front. But guys, with those champions, do you still think that Alliance are going to come out on top? Tweet at LOL Esports with hashtag MILWin or hashtag AllWin, and we'll see what you think in just about a minute's time. It was 80-20 the vote in favor of Alliance coming in. They are, despite their couple of losses last week, still right at the top of the table and still look like, if you discount those two losses, like the best team in Europe.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, even if you take those losses into account, every team in Europe can beat everybody. It is something that has been demonstrated all 4 splits of the LCS. And I'm just very excited to see how Millenium handle themselves in this game, because they're playing completely to their strengths. Everything about all of the champions they've locked in, it is aggressive, it is in your face, it is pick. That's all they want to do, is pick people off and then take objectives. And Blitzcrank, arguably the best pick champion, if you can land your Q.
If you can land the hooks. We're going to find out exactly how Millenium go about this one as we jump into game. Millenium taking on Alliance. Bit of a Poro explosion here in the studio today. And we see there, Alliance moving into position. You've got to be careful right from the get-go with that Blitzcrank in there.
Yeah, very, very lucky Poros. They got all the biscuits from the audience members. The one thing I want to highlight about Blitzcrank and what Millenium need to pay attention to is the vision game. In order for Blitzcrank to punish in the laning phase and the mid-game stages, they need to have vision of Alliance's jungle, or if Alliance are playing aggressive, they need to have defensive vision to ensure they set something up. Creaton may get caught out here, and we'll see if Alliance come. They've caught him.
There's a knock from Brahman, actually forced to skill his jump there and to get himself away very, very early on in this game. So Alliance already showing that despite the Blitzcrank in there, they're not scared of being aggressive at this very early stage of the match.
Definitely not. And what I like about the invade, they force Creaton to skill his Arcane Shift, which means his level 1 and level 2 presence is going to be much lower as he hasn't got his hands on that Q on his Arcane Missile. So on the same token, if Alliance can get favorable lanes, we'll see if they want to maybe initiate some sort of lane swap. I'm not expecting it. Very, very smart invade. A lot of deep vision, and it looks like they want to challenge for blue.
Q almost connecting there onto Wickd. think they did maybe spot them just heading out of that brush, so we'll see exactly what they're going to go. Well, they saw that there was a ward down there as well in the death brush, so definitely seeing Alliance coming into that area of the map. And we'll see if they try and defend this one, although it looks like the likelihood here will be that Millenium switch straight over to the other side of the map and go for Alliance as blue.
Yeah, vision is so important for both of these teams. For Millenium to secure picks and for Alliance to play safer. If Alliance know where the Fizz or the Blitzcrank are going, they can avoid the hooks, they can avoid the setups. And we actually have the makings of, you know, an early tower push here from Alliance. They have, in fact, initiated a lane swap. So this is the first time we're seeing it on 4.11. Keep in mind the changes to the turret damage. It is higher and hits its peak after fewer shots, in addition to the lane experience being a longer range. So once the top laners eventually get to lane, we need to keep an eye on how Kevin and Wickd keep themselves relevant in terms of their levels.
Also want to just touch on the mid lane, the fact that Kerp once again going in for that crystalline flask start with pots as well, of which he's already got running there. So see if Froggen can actually bully him out of this mid lane, and we've seen already that Froggen loves those champions where he can get a lot of farm in the early stages. In 6 is certainly one of those as well, and we'll see how aggressive Kerp wants to play this one. You have to feel that KottenX is going to spend a lot of time on that mid lane.
Yeah, he's going to need to, because Kerp is already struggling. He missed a lot of those CS under the tower. The pressure from Froggen in the early levels is just going to be absolutely immense. Everything about Ziggs can deal with a low-level Fizz. But once Kerp does get to level 6, the tables can turn, especially if you add into account the KottenX factor. I also want to highlight, it is game 4 of the day, and 3 of the games we've seen double teleports. So Kerp is running that flash teleport with his Fizz, and look at the movements from Alliance. They're going to set up a very early dragon, most likely because of Ilyas, although they have actually been pushed away from it by an aggressive move from Millenium.
Yeah, Alliance moving straight towards that middle outer turret. Millenium had gathered around Dragon as well, but they decided to recall away as Kevin will then TP towards his top lane. So no TP available. Alliance actually backing away from that mid tower, having done around about half damage. But are they going to put a dive here onto Kevin?
So it looks like Alliance are just trying to negate the power of that Blitzcrank in the laning phase. We talked about how, you know, fairly easy it would be for Jree to hook Nyph if they were going to go in those head-to-head lanes, and that could have been a deciding factor as to why Alliance moved. Now, they did put damage in the mid lane tower. That's KottenX going deep.
Following through on that one there is Kevin actually diving in as well. The hook missing from Jree, but they've managed to force them out of their jungle.
Yeah, I actually think that hook connected a Spiderling from Shook. And that's important to note, because if Shook is sitting on the somewhat front end of his team, they could just negate it. Now Kerp's being dove.
In a lot of trouble from this one. He's going to manage to get away from that thanks to his flash there and abilities being used. But that just showing danger here that Alliance, if you think back to that loss against the Copenhagen Wolves, the Wolves just ran them rugged, ran around the entire map pretty much the entire time. And Alliance have shown signs of that as well, not staying static in these lanes.
There is a big difference though, because in this game, Millenium are responding. You notice that KottenX was running through the jungle. Kerp pulled himself out of lane, and very importantly, Jree has left Creaton to solo farm that bottom lane. So even though Alliance are somewhat using an invade tactic that we've seen them lose against last week, it has not been completely unchecked. Millenium have continued to respond and continued to move around. The most interesting development from the strategy of Alliance is that Wickd has not actually been in a lane at all. Kevin has teleported to lane a few minutes ago, getting some experience, and Wickd has basically been holding Shook's hand in the jungle and moving around this entire time.
As he recalls there, may see him actually coming down onto this bottom lane, although that lane is frozen quite far up on Millenium's side of the map, so that might be a problem for him, and he's actually walking back out of the base there with Shook, so we'll see if he continues that trend of just following Shook around the jungle. And as we hit the 6-minute mark, no first blood as of yet. The gold remains very, very even. If you look at some early trends, though, it's that mid lane where the real difference lies, a 10 CS lead for Froggen.
Yeah, and it is what you expect, you know, in the matchup itself and with the pressure that Alliance have put down. Also note the mini golem still standing there on Alliance's blue side, so hasn't been reset by Alliance because they've been roaming around the map. Jree, he's going to get caught by the body slam.
A lot of damage coming in, and there is the repel from Shook. He's gone quite deep on that as a Q from KottenX doesn't quite connect, and actually KottenX there taking a couple of hits was almost stunned up there thanks to Braum.
Yeah, very important to note that was a level 1 cocoon from Shook, so it was only a 1-second stun. It just simply wasn't enough time to get the kill. So Alliance, because of the focus on this mid lane and the invader Millennium's blue, their blue, I think it actually has just respawned if I check the vision. Still standing, rather, that little mini golem. So they're going to need to clear that out, and it'll still be a few more minutes before it's up. And Millennium are keeping themselves relevant in CS in the lanes that matter. Kevin for the front line is doing okay. Creaton is farming himself up with Creaton. But you have to feel that if Millennium don't get poked down with that Ezreal, and he gets caught out by a Gragas or Ziggs bombs, he's going to be in a lot of trouble.
So there we see it, that little golem still not being taken down, so that blue buff not respawning. There was a ward put down from Millennium on that, so biding the fact that maybe that ward will time out before they actually notice that and finish it off. Millennium should have vision of it. Right now, though, they're going to be quite content with securing their own blue buff here for Kerp in the mid lane.
So I have to wonder what the game plan is here from Alliance. They haven't secured a kill. They made a move towards the Dragon early with Ilyas, who does incredibly well at juggling the auto attacks that Dragon can put down, which does, in theory, allow you to get early ones. So that was thwarted. They didn't get the mid lane tower. They didn't get first blood after, I don't really want to call it a dive in the top lane, but they were positioning for something. All of the pressure and the movement that Alliance have put on the map have not yielded very big results. Kevin is winning in CS, Creaton is winning in CS, and there's only 10 creeps difference between Froggen and Kerp. So you could dare say that this opening, 10-minute game plan from Alliance has in fact failed because it hasn't netted them any sort of gains or any sort of advantages.
And they've only just seen as well that that small golem was actually still there, so Nyph cleared that out on his own, but that means they've still got quite a span of time to wait things out until they can actually secure that from themselves. Meanwhile, Jree has come down to help out Creaton, and we're going to see those 2v2 lane matchup really getting together now on the bottom side, and we'll see what Jree can deliver on that front, and whether KottenX, who's also on the bottom side of the map, will try and get involved there.
So I think the pressure is going to be on Creaton because he needs to make sure he gets those Mystic shots or those Essence Flux down onto Tabzz, his Qs and his Ws, because if he can keep Tabzz or Nyph slightly low, then Ezreal can be somewhat relevant in that lane. But you do have to feel that Lucian is just a slightly better ADC. He's got a higher burst at the low level. He's got the double tap passive from his Light Slinger. So in any of these trades, I think it's going to be very determined by the long-range poke of Ezreal. Also, notice as Jree moves forward, Nyph is the one that goes all the way back. Nyph simply cannot stay close enough to get caught by that rocket grab because of the fact that his dash is stand behind me, is reliant on another minion or teammate, and obviously I think that Jree's going to be focusing him.
We saw that though, at least the Unbreakable able to dodge away from all that damage that Creaton was going to put through. And look at this Alliance sending Shook down towards the bottom side of the map. Are they thinking here that it's time now for Dragon? You have to feel with that bottom lane of Millennium pushing them up quite far that this is probably not the time for it. However, a gank may be on the cards. Shook going to come around. Can they lock anyone down? Arcane Shift used by Creaton. Jree didn't have a flash, but just simply sped away.
Yeah, very, very easily dodged there by the members of Millennium. KottenX himself is actually going to get out thanks to that safeguard to a minion. Unfortunately, the ward is going to safeguard to a ward, rather. Ward's going to get cleared out instantly. So Millennium holding even. They're a few hundred gold ahead. But for the time being, it's Alliance making the aggressive moves and no real ganks paying off.
Let's have a look down some of the items here. You see Creaton working his way towards the Trinity Force first item. Blade of the Ruin King will be coming out here for Tabzz, as once again Froggen using a lot of mana there to spam away on towards Kerp, who got himself the Sheen start after his Crystalline Flask and Doran's Ring that he picked up. And obviously from Froggen's side, just moving himself straight towards Athenes, and there's the grab onto the minion now.
So I want to see how Jree handles those Blitzcrank cabs, because of course the Unbreakable Shield from Braum should negate the damage, but the hook should still come into effect. So Jree in theory, should still be able to catch somebody, and that's an aggressive play.
He's moving right forward on this one. Jree already down to less than half. He's underneath the tower. Actually, summoning heal being used there by Creaton. That will keep Jree alive. Meanwhile, the TP's coming in from Kerp. Got the ulti onto Wickd, but he's already underneath the tower.
That was such a good play coming out of the bottom lane of Alliance. Punishing Jree on his positioning, and there's a very, very high cooldown on that rocket grab. At level 2, it's 18 seconds. So Jree burns his flash, Creaton burns his summoner heal. They did burn Tabzz' flash, so let's see if KottenX can make anything happen. He's got his Dragon Rage kicks available, and he's may have caught Nyph.
Q goes in, Nyph though, actually will be forced to flash away there. The hook was well and truly on its way to connecting, so Jree trying to make that presence felt. KottenX doing a good job to get in, couldn't get behind them though to secure that kick and really set up the kill.
So with the ganks that have happened in multiple lanes, there's a lot of summoner spells blown. This means that if KottenX or Shook can take advantage of those summoner spells being down in the next 3 to 5 minutes, that is when they can get an advantage. We do see Kerp and KottenX doing the best they can to defend the tower, but it's not going to happen, and the range of Froggen is going to give Alliance their first advantage.
That was an incredible satchel charge as well to knock them right against the wall, stop them from escaping. Going to be the first turret of the game going to Alliance. It swings the gold in their favor. This could really swing it though if they're able to finish off this dragon. It's going to be up to KottenX to steal it if Millenium are to take it.
Well, there's going to have to be a 1v4 steal in this scenario. Sonic Wave just out of range, and Nyph with some very, very good zoning. KottenX still hasn't given up. Now he has.
Got a ward there as well, so Alliance able to attack over the top of the wall. They get the kill onto the dragon. Wickd will TP up to the top lane to make sure that Kevin can't take that one down. And there is the early advantage coming over. And back towards Alliance's side. That mid lane, not quite a 20 CS lead, but still very decent for Froggen in these early stages. You could also argue on the other side, though, is that going to be enough for him?
Yeah, we need to see. The main thing about Froggen is even if he's not necessarily killing people all the time, the wave clear and the utility that Ziggs offers is going to be more relevant than Fizz, in my opinion. What we did see, though, Alliance, they got the dragon, cleared out the waves, both middle and bottom, and then they backed away. So that has opened up their blue buff to be stolen away by Kerp. And it looks like Millenium may be able to push the bottom tower down. Instead, Kerp is deciding to peel away and maybe put some more pressure onto Froggen in that middle lane. Top lane we haven't actually seen all too much, and Wickd is now being jumped on.
Yeah, jumped on there. He's actually 20 CS behind that of Kevin, who's got the Vamp Scepter, got a Negatron Cloak as well, so I mean, got some good sustain as well, also from his general abilities there, and that Vamp Scepter, and also a bit to just negate the damage that Wickd can throw his way. And it seems like Wickd having a few little issues with Kevin up top.
So remember that Wickd went to lane later than Kevin did.
True.
Wickd was farming the jungle with Shook and playing that sort of invade roaming game. Kerp, level 10 versus Shook. Oh! Actually, Shook's going to have the support of Froggen, and all of a sudden it's Kerp that's in trouble.
Yeah, Kerp just going to dash away from that one, though. So, as I said before, Wickd going a little bit low to Kevin meant that he wasn't feeling so comfortable of actually joining in there for that fight. And look at this, Kerp is still hanging around. Alliance have completely left their jungle, so this really opens up Wickd to danger.
Yeah, so they know that Wickd doesn't have that flash, and look at the vision. Kerp has stood in the little shadow. He could flash over the wall, doesn't even need to.
Ulti coming through there, it's not going to connect, but I feel they've got the damage for this one. Kevin got his Bloodwell passive. If he does need it, he will need it, but they get the first blood, and importantly, it goes on to Fizz.
Yeah, first blood for the cost of a blood well. I think Millenium will be happy with that trade. Secured by the champion that I think probably needs it most. Because if Kerp isn't able to do that to multiple Alliance members, their team comp is going to be in trouble. Look at the roam from Alliance. There's 2 members coming down to the bottom, and they've jumped on Creaton.
Oh, this is really bad. There's the bomb coming in from Froggen. Have they got the damage here to kill Jree? They do. Nyph takes some damage as well, and Creaton finds himself pinned to the tower with 4 men closing in around him. The minion wave only just now coming in. Tabzz will dash in. Creaton goes aggressive. Tabzz will survive it. It's Froggen that actually got the kill in the end, and this should open up the second turret for Alliance as well.
2 very good kills for Alliance, and what you also noticed in that play, the true shot barrage from Creaton, and how easily it can just be mitigated by Nyph's Unbreakable. They get a very good jump onto the minion wave by Nyph. He gets his ultimate down, that Glacial Fissure, and it was just well executed. They got the damage, they got the tower, and Alliance come out ahead. So, smart play, and it also lands in both Froggen and Tabzz' hands. So, Blade of the Rune King completed for Tabzz, and he's got the makings of that Brutalizer working towards the Ghost Blade.
Realizing, okay, there's a bit of backup now for this turret. Can't necessarily go for it as Kevin gonna come back into lane, got himself the cutlass there now as well. Don't forget that Bloodwell was taken away from him during that first blood dive onto Wickd on the top side, so he's got a little bit less safety now there, but still with flash, still with his jump as well. Shouldn't have any problems.
So one thing I would like to see Millenium doing with their Aatrox and with their Fizz, because they've both got teleports, I feel like they should try to do like a split push with Aatrox in one lane, Fizz in another. We've already seen that Kevin can deal with Wickd. I doubt he'll be able to really deal with Froggen or completely control him, but Kerp may be able to once he spends some of the gold that he's been sitting on, 1,800 in his back pocket. If Millenium can force Alliance to deal with the side lanes, use a Mega Inferno Bomb or an Explosive Cask, and then teleport to a single lane. That's how Millenium can force team fights or force dragon fights to be in their advantage. But it means they need to plan ahead, it means they need to bait those ultimates out, and then obviously force the objective fights. So let's see if they can pull it off. I'm not as confident because they haven't been able to really do that or demonstrate that ability in the past.
And it seems like Alliance, on when we talk about that, has spread quite finely here. Not really bunching up whatsoever. The duo up on the top side that Kevin can't really break through. The bottom side as well will be Wickd versus Kerp, which Wickd still, you can see there, is a little bit apprehensive about. He's 2 levels behind. The Lich Bane is now done for Kerp. Rod of Ages for Wickd, so he's going to be getting a little bit tankier. We see that Millenium now looking for a kill onto this duo, but Alliance are ready for it.
Yeah, there's a party in the top lane. Both teams are aware of this. And Nyph, now, as Millenium moved into the grass, they did use that sweeping lens. Oh, they missed! That was so close, but it missed, and that means for the next 15 or so seconds, Millenium do not have that hard engage.
And gives away completely the position, and they saw that Nyph had stepped forward and then probably thought, okay, we've not got vision of Shook. He's probably going to be waiting around here, and look at that Froggen stepping forward. No, thought they were maybe looking to close in there and utilize that Mega Inferno Bomb to get those last bits of damage that they needed, if not to get kills, but to maybe force them away from this top tower. Already at half health. Jree going to come forward, does get the grab. It's on to Nyph as he gets knocked up, kicked back as well there, but he's very tanky already and somehow manages to just walk away. Wickd comes in for the barrel to disengage, and there on the top side, Kerp has actually come around as well. He got the 1 kill, went straight down afterwards. The Mega Inferno Bomb not quite landing. Have Alliance got enough health here to force Millenium away?
Of course they do, because their 2 key wave clears of Ziggs and Gragas are available. So Millenium can't sit on the tower because they just physically can't deal with the damage and the zoning that Alliance are putting down. Trading a mid laner plus his teleport and flash simply for a support, I'm not sure that was a worthwhile trade. It means Kerp's going to be more limited in his split pushing and his side lane control, and obviously not having that flash means he's more likely to get killed in this next fight. So there should be a replay of Kerp coming in from the side. You can actually see the teleport from the river. Let's see how quickly he blows Tabzz up, because this looks like it was just insta-get. Yeah, flash, and actually turns back the Nyph. So, you know, I guess he got the kill, but not sure if worth.
Not sure if Worth goes down. Tabzz got the 1 onto him, and he was only the kill on the support. Either way, the Dragon is there now, and Alliance already have 4 members around. They don't have Shook, who has that all-important Smite Summoner spell to have a go at the Dragon, but they're going to start things off, and Shook should be there when he's actually needed. Millenium, though, are starting to walk around onto this one and may try and challenge for it. Jree steaming on forward. Can he get the grab? Actually, it is going to be Alliance to pick up the Dragon itself. Kevin getting right to the front, and Shook focus will go down to Creaton. That's a single kill for Millenium. Now they have to back away, though, with that Mega Inferno Bomb coming in. Barrel comes out of Wickd as well, and Millenium realizing they've not taken all that much damage here. They can try and push them back with the ultimates down.
Yeah, the barrel really did not do a lot, and Kerp managing to thread the needle, landing the Chum the Waters onto Tabzz, forced him to fall back, and if he had been caught up by more damage, may have given up more. Alliance did get the Dragon though, so that's very important. Trading Dragon for a single kill is definitely worthwhile. And I want to highlight Shook's build. We've seen Elisa's moving away from that Spirit of the Ancient Golem, obviously because it's now been changed. It upgrades out of that Quill Coat, and the focus is a little less about HP in the early stages of the game. But with the Spirit of the Spectral Wraith and an early Haunting Guise, Shook is looking to assassinate people. He doesn't have that tankiness and frontline power that we sometimes see out of Ilyas. So what that does mean for Alliance is they are heavily invested in poking from range with Gragas and Ziggs, and only committing to those big 5v5s once they have got poked down. In the Dragon Pit scenario, once they'd used all their abilities, they didn't have a front line to actually keep them alive, which is why they'll back away, and I expect them to do the same in future team fights.
So we've gone over the 20-minute mark, so let's have a look at where the game stands. 32 to 28,000 gold. Solid 4K lead for Alliance. Turrets, the main part of that one as well. 3 up on that front. Still tied 3-3 in kills, which like 1 with Froggen, 2 with Tabzz, who's 2-0-1. Pretty much a similar scenario on the other side. Kerp got the 2 and the single kill for Creaton as well. So we'll see how that one goes. Tabzz will be closing in on that Ghost Blade here soon though. Got both parts of that recipe to go along with his Blade of the Ruined King.
And notice Kevin continues to sort of push out the side lane. From the looks of things, Kerp is going to be going to the bottom lane. So that 1-3-1 push that we talk about fairly often is something that I think Millenium can and should be doing. The only thing they've got to be wary of is their teleport timers. Kerp has still got a quarter of his cooldown available, Kevin more than half. And it looks like Alliance are again sort of reading the pressure from Millenium well. They've got numbers in the top lane to fend off the push. And if Millenium react quickly enough, Kerp may get some damage in the bottom lane tower while simultaneously pushing this middle lane. So quite a smart play from Millenium, using the minions to their advantage and forcing Alliance to react.
Not moving too far up on those turrets there though. As they notice Froggen coming back, who of course by now with a needlessly large rod in there, blasting wand. Also got himself a bit of that Zhonya, so we'll see whether he goes Death Cap first or wants that extra protection of the Zhonyas. Kerp, on the other hand, though, blasting one for him as well, and he's going to be a constant threat, although Wickd getting tankier and tankier as things go on.
Yeah, it really is just a matter of time before Wicked's going to become very frustrating to deal with. But if he picks the incorrect battle, like right now he's got a bunch of MR, so if Kevin is the one that can meet him toe-to-toe, you know, land the slow, maybe try to deal with that cask with the Dark Flight jump of his, he may be able to bully Wickd around. So until Wickd gets the likes of that Iceborne Gauntlet, I think Kevin may be able to deal with him. So the trick will be for Millenium to find the matchup that best suits their opponents. Also, key thing to note, Froggen does have that Zhonya's Hourglass, so he'll be able to avoid those chumper waters that Kerp will be putting down.
Would be a big saving grace for them here if Kerp continues this presence on that bottom side. The top turret, we were looking at it earlier on, is also not very healthy. Tabzz was trying to keep those minions away from it because just 3 or 4 hits from them will probably be enough to finish off that tower. Kevin's not quite been able to get in range of it. We can see that Tabz's culling is actually on cooldown there. He's had to use it a couple of times here to really keep Kevin away from that turret. 2 auto attacks from Kevin and it goes down.
I also want to highlight that he's also behind on CS, and I want to attribute a portion of that to the style that Alliance have played. With that early roaming and movement around the map, focus on trying to put damage down on Kevin, also made their life a little bit difficult. So he's not too far behind him, and he's got his Ghost Blade, his Blade of the Ruined King, and a BF Sword. He's in a very good position. But Millenium now, a minute and a half away from this next dragon. They made an attempt at a challenge, but I think they may have been a tiny bit late from the previous dragon. So we need to see how they handle themselves. Teleport is available for Kerp. It should be available for Kevin by the time the battle unfolds. And I would imagine that Kevin and Creaton should be spending their money. There you go. Creaton's just picked up his Blade of the Ruined King before the next dragon fight breaks out.
Tabzz already has his Ghost Blade there as well, though, so we'll see how those two match up if they ever get involved in this action. Froggen will also get that blue buff that was controlled on its early couple of spawns by Millenium, so that's always a welcome sign for Froggen in particular. We will have that here once this dragon does come rolling around. The AD carry is also going to be gifted red buffs as well, so both teams really gearing up for when this next dragon comes around. We can see that as well by the sheer amount of wards that are on that bottom side of the map. However, it looks like Kerp has been left a little bit too alone on the bottom side, and he's going to take Millenium's second tower.
Yeah, so 2 very easily secured towers. Kevin gets the one on the top lane, took a long time to finally finish. Jree is now in some trouble. Alliance, they're looking to jump on him. This is very important because Jree is the biggest threat to dissuade Alliance from sieging up and dancing around objectives. If Alliance are grouped up around River, there's always the threat of a rocket grab. We do see that Jree hasn't backed off yet. He's chugging away nothing, actually. That was the relic shield that I'm looking at. So he's down to about 3rd HP. And again, if the rocket grab catches a key target, that will be very strong. Kerp wants to come from the sidelines.
Well, Dragon is already down to less than half HP. KottenX coming in, and it will in fact be Alliance to get that one. TP from Wickd also will make him join in on that party, but do Millenium want to fight? They're going to be looking to pick one person off. Wickd has his ultimate available. The Inferno Bomb as well was there, and Alliance pick up the Dragon and are able to waltz on out without taking much damage at all.
Nothing at all. Wickd was forced to use his teleport. Kevin used his as well. So Kerp will continue that split push. Jree has still yet to back. So his effective HP if a fight were to break out is now even lower, thanks to the very effective poke that Alliance are putting down. Finally, we see Kerp backing, or probably to buy his death cap. And if he needs to teleport into the lane, he can. And we do see they've got Wickd.
They've got Wickd. He flashes very, very early from it, using his barrel there as well. And Alliance seem to have actually turned Millenium a little bit on this one. Jree at half HP. Kerp will finally be getting in there. In fact, using his teleport, and he's going to try and come around the back of them. Can this work for Millenium?
Very important. Alliance burned through their flashes and multiple ultimates. Millenium have started the fight.
The knock-up from Kevin, and here comes Kerp from the backside. Nyph going to go low. They want Tabzz on. They get Tabzz as well. It's Creaton that takes down Nyph. Kevin here may have a go at Froggen. Nyph will dive onto him. Zhonya's is there for Froggen, and in the end that won't work out for him, but Kevin's flashed in. Knock-up comes around as well, and that will be 4 for 2 in favor of Millenium, and they managed to hold on to that tower.
So important for Millenium. The reason that fight was a success was because of the earlier initiation that came out of Alliance. They blew Explosive Cask, Culling, and the Glacial Fissure, and Millenium just dashed away from it. Very important to note, I'm not sure if this is before the ultimates. No, it's not. The reason that Millenium could win this fight is a few seconds before they baited and forced Alliance to blow all of the spells that give them a front line. And we talked about how Shook is not particularly tanky, and how if Millenium can get into the middle of Alliance, they can secure the kills. So very, very smart play by Millenium to re-engage after all of those key spells were down. And Joe, you rightly pointed out after that fight, Froggen didn't even use his Hourglass. You could dare say that he was going to die anyway, even if he did pop it. But nevertheless, convincing team fight victory for Millenium. They grabbed the middle outer turret, and they closed that goal gap to 1,500.
Well, that's still a little bit of fear in Alliance. We're going to find out here shortly. We see them already getting wards around the Baron area. In fact, Millenium sending a couple of guys towards the top side of the map. KottenX and Kerp between them have a lot of control. And we saw there that Wickd, despite being relatively tanky, or very tanky at this point, I think we can say, he's still not out of danger if they can lock him up. If Jree can bring him into the rest of the team and force him to panic throw his ultimate out there.
This is very important to note. With Wickd getting that Randuin's, with him building more tanky stats, he's becoming the front line that Alliance need. But it's not enough yet. And very importantly, if Wickd doesn't land the disruption very effectively, if he doesn't knock up Ezreal or knock away Fizz, the mobility of Aatrox, Lee Sin, Fizz, and Ezreal will simply negate all of that spell power. All of that disruption is completely countered by an effective dodge or an effective reposition from Millenium. So what that means is the Alliance have the tools to deal with Millenium, but they need to land everything perfectly. Any mistakes whatsoever will cost them. And look at Kerp again, looking from the sideline. Kevin didn't get the knockout.
Diving in there, Chum, the waters comes down, but that will be repelled away from what they wanted. Oh, the hook landing there from Jree as he comes down. Creaton gets the kill. They might want to back away now, though. KottenX will be focused, and in the end, it's a 1-for-1. Kerp actually on the top side there of the Alliance jungle, I think, has decided he doesn't want any more of it, and will, in fact, do a big loop around the top towards that top wave. Interesting little fight. Again, Jree on point with the hook. Actually, Kevin being a little caught out there, but does have his dark flight to jump over the wall.
Jungler for jungler, and Jree with such a good rocket grab, catching Shook the moment he landed from that repel. And Millenium just playing with more confidence. If you look at those team fights and you look at how they're pushing Alliance around, they have hit a power spike that they're comfortable to engage with, that they're comfortable to do battle. And again, if they can take advantage of the ultimate windows being down, that's how Millenium win this game. Teleports will be up in a short while for Millenium, so they can go back to that split pushing to force team fight style of play, which I think they've been doing fairly well this game.
So 30 carries now also have that last whisper in there as well. We see a locket of the Iron Solari for Shook as his next item. Randuin's more Wicked was finished a little bit earlier on. And Kevin is in one of those scenarios now. Got himself the Spirit Visage plus that Blade of the Ruin King. Items that work well together as well as with his skill set as well. It's going to be hard, especially when he's got that ultimate running, to actually kill Kevin off with his passive as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things where even if you do burst him down with everything that Gragas and Ziggs offers, because of Bloodwell, he just comes back and then he can sustain tank through the rest of the damage. What that also means is there's more pressure on Tabzz, because he not only needs to avoid all of these mobile champions jumping into his face and the rocket grab trying to pull him towards the team, he's also going to deal with Kevin, who's going to, try to force him out of these team fights. So another dragon spawning, another fight. Millenium this time starting earlier than the objective is available.
Look at that, Kevin going very aggressive on towards Wicked. They've managed to catch out Nyph here. Can they finish him off? The Inferno won't come through. Wicked's ultimate, not exactly what they were looking for as Nyph goes low. Will flash away. Kerp throws down his ultimate as well. It's a good culling from Tabzz. There is the true shot barrage going through. It will get them one. Kevin's put on his passive there. Can they stick around for it? Kevin now trying to make a run for it. One more auto attack out of Tabzz will do it. He actually flashed to get that one. In the end, it's a 1-for-1. Millenium retreating.
Millenium didn't get the damage follow-up after Alliance were low, and Shook so lucky to get away with his life there. Locker to the Iron Slurry, giving him that additional HP. Millenium with, again, another fairly solid team fight. The problem for them was they couldn't continue to stay in the fight. Wicked is having a tough time this game because he's not landing the greatest explosive casks. That previous one actually knocked Millenium away from the rest of his team. It didn't help him secure more objectives, and Alliance with yet another dragon.
That's one thing that's keeping this gold lead up for them. 4 out of 4 so far. Let's have a look at that one again. Hook on towards Nyph. Good one.
Yeah, so definitely a good hook. A lot of good synergy between all of the ultimates with the exception of Wicked's, I feel. And this is the interesting thing for me. Kerp just gets decimated by the culling, and it feels like he's too scared to re-engage. Also note Creaton's position. He tries to get in range, but because Tabzz is at full HP and pretty much able to solo anyone from the team, Millenium were forced to retreat. So what that ended up meaning was the damage was good for Millenium, but they didn't get the key, team fight cleanup of Tabzz, and they were full retreat. So actually quite smart play. I hadn't noticed how risky that was going to be.
Shook, repel, where's he going to go? Flashes directly after the true shot barrage. Coming out a little preemptively there from Creaton, and Shook again getting away with his life. That last fight, by all rights, probably should have died as well. But we see that Kerp trying to stamp his authority now on this bottom lane. Wicked with the Banshee's Veil, if I can remember the name of it, down on that bottom lane to try and defend out here against Kerp, who's now added a Void Staff in on top of his Lichbane and Rabadon's Death Cap.
Luckily with an Ezreal on the squad, Creaton should be able to pop Banshee's Veils relatively easily, but he needs to be in range to do that, and that obviously means he's in range for Ziggs Bombs or Gragas Ultimates. For Millenium, their team fights have been good, but they've always been fairly costly. 4 for 2 in the middle lane. That was a 1 for 2 in the Dragon a few minutes ago, and Alliance still got the Dragon. So Millenium are still playing from behind. They're still playing at a goal deficit, but they're far from being out of the game. And Alliance have not sieged. Alliance have not used that range poke. I think out of the fear of double teleports from behind, as well as the threat of the rocket grab. So for Alliance, in order to pull ahead, they too may be looking for a big team fight or a numbers advantage before they, comfortably and safely siege up towers and objectives.
So there again, Kerp trying to get around the backside of them. And you have to feel that Alliance, as they take a step forward down the lanes, they're probably going to have to keep a lot of wards behind them just to make sure that Kerp isn't trying to get in there and flank around the side. At this point, Kerp is actually going for that top inner turret. Alliance have bunched up in the middle lane, though, and will take the inner tower.
Yeah, so there's no wave clear from Millenium outside of that true shot barrage, really, and they're completely at the wrong angle to defend that tower. Luckily, they should be able to reposition fairly quickly. They've traded inner turrets, mid for top lane. Kerp has not left, and thanks to the vision that Millenium have, the incredible vision they have in the top half of the map, there's little to no threat on Kerp at all, because if anyone moves back, they're instantly just going to get spotted and he can turn away. I mean, that's so many wards.
That is you'd almost argue maybe overkill, although none of them really on top of each other. They've got complete sight of that area around the Baron there. We can see with their vision toggled on that they own that area of the map, and they're going to try and use that to stamp their authority on this game. In fact, the inner turret goes down for Alliance on the bottom side of the map, but Millenium doing a two-man Baron at this stage. Alliance trying to push for more objectives in terms of the base, though. Baron is down to half HP. Cullen's going to come out. I feel like Alliance should be able to finish off this turret, but now Kerp going to come running around there to grab onto Junk. He's going to actually go down before he can get up onto his repellers. Nyph tries to get in there. Kevin will have his blood well pop, but will be coming back into it. The Baron went over to Millenium there, and now they're trying desperately to get away. They'll lose Kerp though, and actually Wickd fell to Creaton in the end, who's going to be recalling home, but it's going to be an inhibitor for Alliance for their troubles down there.
So Baron secured for Millenium in exchange for a inhibitor from Alliance. Millenium come away with 4 members of their team securing that Baron buff. The problem that they have is they are going to be under pressure from Alliance's map. Super minions on the map in the bottom lane. If Alliance wanted to siege and use their poke to their advantage, these next few minutes is when it's really going to count. Force the super minions to do work for you and take that last remaining inner turret in the top lane. Wickd did a pretty good job of actually trying to disrupt that Baron play. Unfortunately, in a 2v1, you're not really expecting him to come away with his life. And Millenium, we'll see which strategic decision comes out better. It is an argument and discussion that happens often. Inhib or Baron. And depending on the team you talk to and the composition, there's always a different opinion.
I'll look down some of the items here, then as things quieten off somewhat. Interesting to at the AE carries. You see the Scimitar coming out for Tabzz, which will keep him feeling a little bit safer, although you can also argue that a lot of that CC is not something you can get away from with that Quicksilver Sash.
What's also important to note is that's going to drop the ultimate from Fizz. Once the Chum the Waters gets thrown out, Tabzz will be able to shake that little fish off and leave it on the ground. I'm interested to see if somebody else picks it up, because that is a definite possibility if somebody else walks over that ultimate. And I think for Tabzz, probably a smart call. If he gets silenced by Jree after a rocket grab, he can't flash away. He can't use his dash to save him. So probably a very smart call. And of course, the movement speed that it gives you as well. Once again, just the escape and the dash that you can get away makes life even more difficult for Millenium to stick to a target. You know, Millenium's still 2,000 gold down. They're still in this game. But they haven't had the map control that Alliance have had. Alliance have really taken charge of the game from Dragons and from a Tao's perspective.
Kerp there pushed out bottom again. Alliance already swooping around to clear things out. I thought that Kerp was going to really full on recall. Either way, this should be a free Dragon for Alliance, unless KottenX is actually able to get around to this one. He's starting to move into position. Sees that Froggen is there, but will be too slow. Even if he wanted to do something, just land the Q onto Nyph. Don't think there's a follow-up there, though, in the end. But Millenium actually charging on through.
Yeah, if they manage to get to this inner turret, they could put some damage down. But with Ziggs and Gragas, I imagine that wave will just get deleted very, very quickly. Oh, they've caught KottenX.
Yeah, he's dead. Tabzz will get that one. He's now on the rampage at 6-1-3, and that leaves Alliance with a man advantage. Will they try and push this one back? Don't forget that the Baron buff is still there for Millenium, so they've got that bit of extra power, and Kerp is still pushing bottom lane out with TP available.
Yeah, notice the damage that Creaton's putting down with those Mystic shots. Not so much on Wickd, but it really shreds through Froggen's HP and Shook's HP. So if Creaton can keep landing those Mystic shots over and over, that could be a very, very important factor in preventing more turrets from going down. Super minions are very far away from that bottom lane, so there is time for Millenium, and it looks like they've successfully defended this wave. So Creaton is their, the most important wave defense person for Millenium, because he needs to get multiple Mystic shots at the longest range possible to prevent minions getting to the tower.
Look at this. Got vision of Alliance. They see 2 of them headed up towards the top side of the red buff. Are they going to be feeling confident enough to come around? One problem that they have is that KottenX is not there. The ultimate, specifically of Froggen, the Mega Inferno Bomb, will be there to really push them back should they go a little bit further forward. And in the end, Millenium decided against really pushing that one through. Kevin's got his blood well back now, though, so you saw him there just being a little bit more confident, pushed up in that mid lane. But slowly but surely, super minions on the bottom side need to be cleared out.
Yeah, it looks like Kerp has been the designated man to go tidy that lane up. He's working more and more towards the Zhonya's Hourglass, sitting at about 1,300 gold, and this wave is going to give him a good couple of hundred towards that needlessly large rod. Now, for Millenium, they haven't been able to split push. They haven't been able to get control of the map through those double teleports. They've tried to use them for team fights, and it hasn't really worked in their favor. In order to disrupt Alliance and regain control, they need to get that similar level of vision control that they had down earlier. They can make use of Blitzcrank, they can make use of those 2 teleports. For the time being, they've got a few wards in the middle and to the right side of the river. But look at the fight from Alliance.
Oh, that is a great call in from Tabzz, and Jree's health just disappearing. Nothing he could do about it. Kevin had already walked around to the other side. We see that Kerp has pushed up once again on the bottom side of the map. There's still 1 minute and 50 until Baron comes up. It's clear to see that Alliance are already hanging around in anticipation of that spawn and hoping to get it upon its next return to the map. Millenium not really taking any chances, though. They're going to get back as a 5 group up for this one and maybe try and challenge for that vision control of their own. They picked up that last Baron.
Yeah, so Wickd is very, very tanky now. Hourglass, Randuin, and Banshee's Veil. He can actually survive on the front line of Millenium for a long time. But I don't think Millenium are going to focus him. I think with the mobility that Millenium have, they have the option or the opportunity to jump onto that back line. So we need to see how Wickd uses his explosive casks in these next few minutes. He can't afford to knock his opponents away, or even more importantly, he can't afford to knock the likes of KottenX and Kerp closer to Tabzz. If they can get some of their burst damage down on Tabzz, that could be the way to winning a team fight here for Millenium. It's just a dance of positioning as one team pushes a wave out, gets closer to an objective, and forces their opponents to come back and defend. Neither team's getting an advantage, and I think we're going to be going to the Baron Dance stage.
Here because Alliance have recalled. Millenium are pushing this mid wave up. The bottom wave has now neutralized itself and will probably stop around the halfway point, so nothing to really be worried about on that side from Millenium's point of view. But 20 seconds until Baron comes up. Millenium still not got a massive wards down, certainly not comparable to the last time they were able to take that Baron with just 2 men, as there is a cocoon landed onto Kevin. Means a bit of free damage onto him. 7 seconds are going to come up. Baron Dance is about to start.
Yeah, the thing is, Millenium do have that blood roll up with UC GA from Froggen. So in order for a fight to start, that's so much damage on Jree.
Yeah, the hook went wide completely. Jree already going very low. It looks like Alliance have decided to take a 5, but look at that. Tabzz blown to pieces without doing anything. Kevin went low, but he managed to actually survive through that one. Alliance are going to have to try and fight for this one. They don't have much of a choice.
No, they don't, but there is still a lot of ranged poke from Alliance. Millenium still trying to set themselves up with a fight. They're thinking about using this Baron as bait, but look at Jree's HP. It is so low. This is the teleport from Kevin. They're jumping in.
Kevin coming in, still has that blood well available, but they managed to blow up Kerp. Can they keep ahead of this one though? Nyph going to be focused down, finished off as well. And look at Kevin diving towards Froggen, who flashes away from the knockup, but his Guardian Angel will be popped, and they'll pounce on him as soon as he gets back up here, throwing everything at him to get the kill. And that's a 3-for-1. They've lost Fizz, but they're going to Baron.
That is the problem from Alliance's team composition. They don't have a standard front line. Gragas needs to knock up and knock away multiple targets, and he didn't have his explosive cask for that secondary team fight. So even though Kerp got focused down and blown up so incredibly quickly, it doesn't matter because Creaton can clean up house. Creaton looks like he's going 1v2, and I think he's going to get some kills here.
Yeah, he's going to kill Shook. No real problem with that one. He came right back down on top of him. Wickd finds himself pretty much all alone in the middle area of the map there. Can't do anything. And Millenium secure a second Baron in this one. Look at those stats as well. They've not had a single Dragon in this game. Well, they've made sure that they've got those towers. They've done well in the team fights. They're still behind on gold, however, by 1,000.
Yeah, their team is simply stronger in straight-up 5v5s. They've got more tools available to them, and the mobility is a very, very big factor because all of Alliance's damage is reliant on skill shots, landing a strong culling, getting a good barrel, getting a good bouncing bomb, and something that I haven't really mentioned in 4.11, the bouncing bomb from Froggen, it does have a slightly smaller explosive radius. It's 30 units, but regardless, all of the movement from Millenium is allowing them to dance around Alliance in team fights, and it's why they've come out ahead mostly. The problem for Millenium is it hasn't equated to map presence. It has not equated to super minions pushing down Alliance's base, and you'll notice Kerp has still not taken that bottom inner turret. So until Millenium regain control of the map, it's still technically slightly in favor of Alliance, as there is an exposed inhibitor in that bottom lane.
See if we can actually do much with that one as Kevin catching the end of that satchel charge explosion. Finally, they're pushing the mid lane up. Kerp's pushing the bottom lane up, so they want this final turret outside of Alliance's base. They probably should be able to get it with this one. I think Alliance might think, okay, this is a Baron up Millenium that have been beating us in these team fights. We might just have to let them have this one.
Yeah, I think they need to pick their fights correctly. And Kerp is just going to melt through this tower. That's 3 or 4 auto attacks and a couple of minions, and that's it. 6 towers secured. So finally Millenium are now sieging up. Alliance are afraid of the rocket grab very obviously, and because of the fact that they've lost so many team fights, they need to be very careful of how they engage.
Does go down. It's going to be Wickd that goes around to try and protect it. Of course, have his teleport should the fight kick off in that middle lane as well. We've also seen Bloodthirster now picked up for Tabzz. On the other side, it's a full stacked out Creaton. Guardian Angel now added in, going to make him even more difficult to deal with. Sam 8-1-2, fantastic performance so far. And we see the damage that he does onto those squishy targets in the Alliance team.
Yeah, he's pretty well equipped. Infinity Edge, Trinity Force, Blade of the Ring King, and a Last Whisper. So when he does land those Mystic Shots, which do apply on-hit effects, the 8% max HP from current HP from Blade of the Ring King means full hit point targets take so much damage. And because Creaton can spam that ability on such a low cooldown and the mana regen of Baron buff, he should be able to just continue this siege up, so doing a very good job. The problem is, he's also taking a lot of damage when he gets hit by those bouncing bombs and, the rubber ducky from Froggen.
Close one. See that shield from Tabzz. I mean, he can keep it pretty much stacked up here with those minion waves constantly being pushed on into his base. That might just be a saving grace, that shield coming out. Kerp continues to pressure. So Millenium looking for one slight mistake, a slight crack maybe in this defensive play from Alliance, and that may be it. Froggen moving towards that top lane, but look at this, Alliance going pretty aggressive. Culling coming out there, and that's decent damage they've done back, but they're going to regen it all back up.
Yeah, very, very important to note, Glacial Fish is not available, so if Millenium want to start another fight, one of the 2 very important team fight abilities is not there for Alliance. And every time Alliance have been down on ultimates, they have lost the team fight. Millenium have taken 3 minutes to siege this inhibitor turret, but on this wave, if they get 1 or 2 auto attacks down, it should be enough to secure the objective. The thing is, Wickd peeled away from the bottom lane, so they had a full 5-man defense on that middle lane, and look at the damage Kerp's putting on Wickd.
Oh, and he's going to go all in on this one as he dives on top of him, but will be able to escape as well. Tabzz actually flashing out aggressive from this. Good damage, but they've given up that middle turret and maybe the inhib as well.
Yeah, Millenium have got caught by the cocoon. Alliance want the fight.
They're throwing it in there. Kevin surely going to get his Bloodwell popped too, and it's right on the steps of the base, right on top of a minefield. He'll flash straight out as the True Shot barrage comes through as well, and Millenium having Kerp TP in there may still have something to say about this inhibitor, and they are in fact just going to move straight in for that one. They're going to take it. Will Alliance try and go for the fight? Wickd stepping forward, got no ultimate. Nyph moving in there as well. They want to get Jree. Cocoon not quite got the range. Millenium back out.
That is an excellent trade for Millenium. They've got all the time in the world to push down the rest of the lanes. They used the entirety of that Baron buff to siege the middle and bottom lanes, and only committed to the objective when they really felt that they had the advantage. The key thing is just Alliance. If they don't sync up with their ultimates and do a lot of damage together, they always lose the team fights. That's another one that Millenium have secured. Look at the amount of the gold that they have to spend. First dragon that they've secured, and at 50 minutes in the game, Millenium now have control of this matchup.
First dragon, funnily enough, after 50 minutes of the match. Another Baron coming up in 1 minute and 40 time. We saw the amount of gold that Millenium were actually sat on there before they decided to go back, and it means that Guardian Angel's really been spread across the board. An extra life for Kevin. Kerp got that GA on there. Petersen had that one earlier. We see a Frozen Heart picked up by Jree as well. Had a little bit of trouble surviving all that damage that's thrown his way by Tabzz, so that should give him that extra bit of protection. now we're going to see Kerp again, moving into position to run this split push tactic for Millenium.
It's one of these situations where you look at the team composition and wonder to yourself, had there been a Thresh for Alliance, would that have been enough peel? A Box and a Flay maybe a little more impactful. Because the problem that Alliance have in these fights is they're simply just being mowed down. They're just being overrun by the death ball of Millenium that just groups up and just jumps over everything they throw out. For Alliance, they need to be 100% aware of when they go for these team fights, and they haven't been able to siege. They haven't been able to use the range poke of Gragas and Ziggs at all. Notice Tabzz sold his Bloodthirster, but he picked up Infinity Edge to replace it, and that Rocket Grab didn't connect, so let's see who gets the advantage in this next fight.
Itch in there maybe to dive in. Kerp as well off to the side. Gonna do a lot of damage there to Nyph. We'll back straight out from it. Alliance here, they're going straight down this middle lane. They need to be real careful. The rocket grab doesn't quite connect, but the damage may just be too much for them. They're gonna keep going. They're gonna be sandwiched and they're gonna have to either go left or right or take a big fight here on this mid lane. We see Wickd is the one right at the front trying to keep Millenium out of range, and they're stepping back and forth, and they could go at this for a while. We've got the Baron actually spawning in as Tabzz are going to catch some good damage down on KottenX. The Colin going to come through, and that's half health gone already. There's the grab though onto Wickd, but he's not taking too much damage. Nyph will be focused. Froggen using the Zhonya's to get away from Kerp's ultimate, and that will be Shook getting one. Froggen's GA does get popped. This is going to be a long fight, but up until now, Millenium doing a decent job of it. Tabzz going to get jumped on. It's a double kill, a triple kill in there for Kerp, and they're going to finish the left on the Creaton. That's 5 for 1. A brilliant fight again for Millenium.
Then Millenium just tore through Alliance. Creaton comes away with that with 50% of his HP. Yes, he did have his Guardian Angel pop, but there were so many extra lives from Millenium that Alliance simply didn't have the consistent damage. Millenium are going to close this game out after 52 minutes, and Alliance are 0-3 for their last 3 games.
Not what you want at the top of the league, but for Millenium, a valuable victory. It's taken them 53 minutes, but they topple the league leaders here in what was a very strong performance.
We say it every single time Millenium plays. When they play champions that revolve around picking off their opponents, they play well. Fizz in the mid lane, Blitzcrank, Lee Sin, Aatrox, champions that want to jump in, assassinate people. They're very mobile, they're very aggressive. And it's definitely Millenium's strong suit because they always find ways to make it work. I do think there wasn't enough of a front line for me from Alliance's team comp, but it did take a very long time for Millenium to close that game out.
It certainly did. 53 minutes with 15 seconds on the clock. They picked up 20 kills in the way to victory there. 9 turrets. There were a couple of Barons in there. I thought we might be waiting for a final Baron, but funny that last fight happening as Alliance are on Millenium's side of the map. Millenium then coming in from behind it. As we talked about, those Guardian Angels on 3 men. Kevin actually didn't have his GA pop, which shows you how much free time almost he had there to just hammer around.
Yeah, one of the things you have to highlight about this game is that it was Millenium who had much better team fights. Yes, their team composition does play a very large factor in that. I do feel that they had the mobility to deal with Alliance's comp. But when you look at the two teams, you feel that Alliance has a higher level of team play, has a higher level of team coordination and communication from what we've seen in the split. But Millenium just said, we don't care. We'll pick things that we're comfortable with, and we'll just go ham. And by getting so aggressive so often, Alliance just didn't have the tools to deal with him.
I also felt that, Wickd playing the Gragas, and I want to point out and say he had a terrible time of things, but we have to also say that when you've got a team that jumps in there, your job as a Gragas is probably going to be to knock people away from your important players. And we saw at least 2 of those fights where they were able to get straight onto Tabzz, kill him off before anything was really going on. And he just didn't have the impact with those explosive casts that he needed to.
I completely agree with you. And I think for the team comp that Alliance put together, it was one of those comps where they could get ahead and then they could poke you to death to stay ahead. The problem is the double teleports from Millenium countered that ability. So while Alliance had a very strong sort of laning and early 20, 25-minute phase, they got every dragon for the first 5 because they poked Millenium down. They poked Jree out. They poked KottenX out. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough substance to prevent Millenium getting in there when they dodge those spells and dodge those abilities, because you can't hit every single skill shot every single time, even if you're Froggen.
No, but at the same token, if we think back to where they were defending the middle and bottom inhibitor turrets there, that defense only really cracked when Tabzz left the mid lane and went down to the bottom to try and deal with Kerp, which, Kerp just playful tricks her away and said, thank you very much for that middle turret. I'm not going to say that they would have held on to it, because Creaton was every now and then stepping forward, getting an auto attack here, and possibly just a matter of time. Maybe the game was a little bit too far gone for them there. But either way, let's focus on the positive here. Millenium taking down Alliance. And that's a victory for a team that we said they're a very solid mid-table team. We can't always count on them to perform when it comes to, well, I don't even want to say towards the top teams, because they
just beat Alliance.
Just perform at any point for them, because they have been probably the most back and forth team in terms of how they've performed.
Very quickly, what I did like about Millenium's game is the double teleport and the way they played that side split push, at least in the early stages. It kind of fell to pieces later, but they are showing an attempt to grow this style, and even though it's pick with split push involved. And it's definitely their strength, but they are expanding, so you have to give them credit for that. And
for their vision control as well, finally, on the top side.
Yeah,
when
all
they got
37 million wards.
Yeah, there were a lot of wards down there on the top side. But guys, we're going to head over to Shox and Deficio, who are standing by with Millenium's Creaton.
Thank you very much, Joe. First off, congratulations. What a win here versus Alliance for you guys. When I talked to Jree a while ago when he played Blitzcrank, he said, well, usually when we don't feel so good, we just all play our favorite champions. How much of that was the case here?
So basically, we were really dismotivated after this week of practice because we played crap. And we decided to go old school alternate with Adrian and Blitzcrank, and it worked. So sometimes it pays off to just go YOLO.
So why do you guys play like crap sometimes? And why do you now beat the #1 team in Europe in the standings? What's going on here?
It's hard to say, but I feel like it's a mentality of players. Sometimes we are like really an emotional team, like people can see that, but when we're doing button screams, we can feel it during the LCS games that we didn't do that well this week, so most probably we're not gonna perform that good. But this game was completely different because we went with winners mentality. We were like, we're gonna just destroy them, and somehow it worked.
You talk about winner's mentality, and it definitely showed in some of the team fights you guys did. We're actually going to get one of those team fights on the screen right now with a great teleport flank coming in from Fizz.
So yeah, of course, you guys have double teleport. You used it really well in this game here, and we actually are about 27 minutes in. You're slightly behind in goal, yet you guys start the fight. You just roll the clip. Tell me about the whole comp you're using and what's going on.
So basically, we just wanted to fight because Fizz is really ahead, and he can one-shot Lucian. We got a good flank TP from Fizz. Kevin just engaging the fight on B. Kerp didn't manage to get Tabzz, but he in the end got him down, and I'm just cleaning up with Kotten in the back line.
And this Ezreal pick here, it really seemed to work well because you had Kerp, you had Kevin just jumping in the face of the enemy, and you just stayed back and kept poking around. I mean, what's the good thing about Ezreal now? Because you're the only one playing him.
I don't think, I think Ezreal is weaker champion than Lucian and Corki, but I played so many games with Ezreal, and I feel like I can perform better with this champion than Lucian. But overall, I think Lucian is better at every state of the game in general.
Well, here in generally in the last fight, if we can get that up on the screen, you were not only full build, you also had double buffs on Ezreal, so I can imagine that helped. So walk us through that one.
We might as well just roll the clip straight away. Very last team fight of the game.
I think they were kind of trapped between our turret super minions and us. We just engaged on them straight away. We got a good shark on Froggen, but he's on yard. But Kotten followed with the kick, we just take him down. Then Tabzz is trying to go in on me, but I have Jree at this point, and I will just resurrect and pin them up, even though they were dead already.
It seems there was a bit of some weird team fights from Alliance in this game. Everyone kind of has some individual mistakes where they would either dash in your face or Jree would land the hook onto them. And it just looked like you guys were always in control in the team fights.
Yeah, basically our 50% of our chat was like fight. I will try to flank, let's go, do something. And yeah, I think like our team comp was just superior to theirs in team fights.
So final question actually going on what the Fisho also asked. It seems that you guys sometimes are very up and down. You say you're a very emotional team. Now is going to be the time to hold on to this kind of form. So how are you guys planning on doing that?
We're just gonna calm down a bit and play the game as usual and just Think positive.
Keep smiling. Well, thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, now let's send it back over to Joe and Quickshot to check out the standings.
Thank you very much, guys. And with 4 matches so far this week, here are how things currently stand in the European LCS. Alliance are still in the lead, although that hold on first place is slipping a bit, and they are now 14-5, and Fnatic closing in right behind them, now on a 5-game winning streak, and in second place with 12 wins and 7 losses.
Yeah, SK Gaming have actually slipped into 3rd place at 11-8. Then Millenium and SK Gaming in a tie for 4th, both with 10 wins and 9 losses. And at the bottom of the table, Copenhagen Wolves and Gambit now tied 5-14.
And on Friday, we'll be bringing you 4 more LCS matches, starting with Alliance versus Roccat and Gambit versus the Super Hot Crew.
That will be followed by the Copenhagen Wolves versus Millenium, and we'll wrap up the week in Europe with Fnatic going up against SK Gaming. Then the European Challenger Series will continue with a quarter-final matchup between the Ninjas in Pyjamas and the Unicorns of Love.
And that all happens on Friday at 6 p.m. Central European Summer Time, which is 9 a.m. Pacific. Well, right now, ladies and gents, it's time for the European Challenger Series as H2K Gaming take on GG Call Nash, with Freak and Zyrene calling all the action.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Week 8 of the European LCS.
Guys, I have a problem. I think I'm hearing ghosts or something.
It's on his own.
Yeah, don't do it.
Jankos is on him. Overpower comes around the side. That's going to be him going down. And Rating caught out. He gets dropped out now. Then a good turn back on towards Freddy. Freddy goes down. And SK are just getting wiped off the map.
No. Let's go, boys.
Low leg slide. Now it's a good knock up there. It is the best engage they can hope for. Soul Shackle's going off, but they just don't have the damage to trade back.
Mayday, I have American-sized chair, Mayday.
We'll touch on that in a second, and this is going to turn into a 2v2.
Oh, there's a kick on towards Peke. Peke may well be in trouble. He is going to go down. Impaler will surely follow with this one, though. And there's the TP. Yellow Star appears as well.
Doesn't matter if we win or lose, just have fun, guys. Have fun. Enjoy the weather on the Rift.
This is going to be a long fight, but up until now, Millenium doing a decent job of it. Tabzz going to get jumped on. It's a double kill, a triple kill in there for Kerp.